But what I'm going to do right now is kind of do a little intro here for today's speaker. So before becoming a best-selling author, our next speaker was an international award-winning mentalist. This means he can use psychology, influence, and magician's trickery to give the illusion that he's reading your mind. So sit back, relax, and silently hope that he never teaches his skills to your spouse. Hit it.
Ladies and gentlemen, Tim David.
Thank you, Raul. That was fantastic. Best introduction I have ever written. You'll see, I like to zoom a little bit differently than most. I like to have a lot of fun. Listen, just because this is remote doesn't mean this has to be removed. Just because it's virtual doesn't mean it's fake. So I see you there. I know we've got 762 people in the room right now, plus people watching this on the replay in the future. This is crazy. So hello to you. And Raul, let's open up the chat. You can also say hello to me if you didn't hear that first part. I'm Tim. Nice to meet you. There was, a couple of times my name was mentioned. And hey, if you ever forget, it's on the wall. It doesn't matter. You're probably all going to call me David anyway. But I see there Cindy and Diane and Evie and Terry and Jason and Jackie. And my gosh, they are coming through in all kinds of multiple languages too. Hello to everyone in the room. Very, very excited to have you here. Now, I was introduced as a mentalist. Not a lot of people know what that is. It's kind of like a magician, except a magician would do sleight of hand, and that looks a little something like this. Everybody put your hands up just like this. You're going to have to do this. You're going to have to participate. This is not a visual trick. This is an experience trick. So hold your hands up. In fact, if you got room, put them out in front of you just like this. I'm going to have you crisscross and then thumbs down and grab. And without letting go, watch carefully, thumbs up, just like that. And if you can't do that, here's one that's a little easier. Hands up just like this, out in front of you, and put them together, take them apart, put them together. Do that a few times. I can't hear you, but it does feel it does feel good sometimes to clap for our entertainer. In fact, later on, I will have a way for you to give me a virtual standing ovation. I promise you'll feel the urge and you'll want to be expressing it. We're gonna have a lot of fun today. I promise. Listen, the thing I love about that magic trick looks really simple, looks really easy to do until you try it. And that's a lot like the theme of this entire webinar series, right? I love the theme of this webinar series. Work happy. Work happy. Seems simple, right? Until you try it. Seems simple until you try it. I think this meme explains a lot. I will show you what this looks like right here. Take a look. I could totally go to work happy. It's easy. It's easy. I mean, why do we need a whole webinar series, Tim, to go to work happy? What's the big secret here? Tim, why do they hire you for conferences and events all around the world and all kinds of different industries just to go share this message of work happy? Why not? Why can't people just go to work, do their job, do it well, and be happy? Why is that so hard? And people tell me this all the time. Gosh, I could totally go to work happy. If it weren't for people. I could totally go to work happy if it weren't for people. How many people relate to that? Yeah, there's that one guy laughing with that weird laugh like somebody just told a dad joke. I could totally go to work happy if it weren't for the people. And you know that there are some people who just take away the happy part. You know the ones I'm talking about, right? You see them coming off at a distance and already you're tired. You know what I mean? Every group has one. Every organization has one. If you don't know who it is, by the way, it's you. No, here's how you find out who the person is. You see their name on your caller ID, right? You see their name on your caller ID, and like a small part of you dies. on the inside. Like like a little bit of your light dims every time just the sound of their voice. It drives you crazy. So that is a challenge that we're facing. You know, we've got these people in sometimes that can feel like they ruin the happy part. But then, you know, we got this thing called COVID that shows up, right? And it throws this whole extra wrench in the gears, and everybody's meeting virtually and digitally. And then suddenly people are saying, I kind of miss those people. Gosh, I almost kind of wish that we were together in the office more. And I know employers are crying, you know, hey, we got to be in the office more. Employees, they want the value and the benefit and the option to work hybrid and remote. And these are some of the challenges that are coming up. These are some of the issues that we're facing, because now that we've only had Zoom, you know, in 2020 after COVID, we've only had technology like that. People start to think, gosh, it's not the same. It's just not the same. And while that's true, it is not the same. I don't know where this idea came from, that you cannot create togetherness. You cannot create connection through technology. Like, you can't do it. Like, what? Where did that even come from? That's crazy. Of course you can do it. In fact, I don't know if you remember this, but there was a time in history when people would like fall in love, like via letters. You know what I mean? Like, they would wait weeks, they'd have to lick the stamps, and they could create deep, deep connections just by letters. Like, so this idea that Zoom isn't the same as letters, or doesn't offer the same connection ability as like a letter is bananas. Like, we have so much more rich connections via digital. In fact, that is my first non-obvious trait of work teams that I want to share with you today, right? So if you're taking notes, please do. If you're not taking notes, get a pen, get a paper. I think that writing things down helps with the learning process for sure. So let's go ahead and take a look at our first non-obvious trait of effective work teams. Tech is not a barrier to connection. Technology is not a barrier to connection. You know, a lot of people are saying, hey, you know, we got to focus on artificial intelligence. We've got to focus on Internet of Things and big data. And we've got to make sure that we are on the cutting edge. And the reality is, those organizations who go backwards in time and lay the foundation and the foundation and the groundwork for strong, true human connections will have an advantage even in this age of technology. So the more connection, the better, and technology is not a barrier. It's just, where do you put your focus? Where are you as an individual putting your focus? Where are you as an organization putting your focus? That is the difference maker. Speaking of you and your friends and your organization, listen, let's connect with them right now. Go ahead, and you see that person right over here who is giving a high five through the screen. That's your remote work buddy. Who are they? Think of that person, and why don't you invite them? Why don't you invite them here? Raul, I don't know if you have the link to help people share this webinar. Go ahead, put it out there, and get your coworkers involved in this process, because we're going to give you lots and lots of tips on how to do this even better. All right, I want to share with you a story of a magician who taught me this. He's from the 1800s, and his name is Howard Thurston. And, you know, he used to just travel around the country. He was sort of the David Copperfield of his day. He had this amazing show that they called, look at this, they called it the Wonder Show of the Universe. The Wonder Show of the Universe. And he was very, very popular. In fact, here's a guy you might recognize. That's Harry Houdini with him, sort of fanboying and saying, "Can I get a selfie with you, Thurston?" So this is the top magician of his day. Not even magician. Think of it like Cirque du Soleil. He put his act in 8 train cars and traveled around just wowing people and blowing their minds. Somebody asked him once, "Hey, Howard, what's your secret? You know, what is your secret?" And Howard Thurston thought for a minute. You know, I think it's a great question to ask successful people. You know, how did you become so successful, right? I don't know what your field is, or the leading authority in your field, or a successful person in your field, but asking people like that, getting best practices, pretty good idea. And Howard Thurston thought for a minute, and he said, "You know, every night I stand behind the unopened curtain and I remind myself that I love my audience. And the person who asked Howard Thurston was kind of like taken aback. Like, what do you mean that's the secret sauce? Like, no, there's got to be like, what about the technical skill? What about learning the art of magic? And he said, listen, in fact, I was the same way. Let me show you this right here. This is me practicing my magic over and over and over again. This is what I used to do. I used to sit in my room and just practice and practice and practice the technical skill of magic, because that's what I thought was going to make the difference. And Howard Thurston said, hey, listen, there are magicians who are better than me. There are magicians who know more about magic than I do. Heck, in 100 years or so, Tim David's coming along. Like, I'm not the best magician in the world. And he said this, hear me. You can fool the eyes of your audience. You can fool the minds of your audience, but you can never fool their hearts. I'll say that again. You can fool the minds of your audience. You can fool the eyes of your audience, but you will never fool their hearts. So, throw some hearts in there in the tap on those reactions there, and you can throw some hearts up, because again, you will never fool the hearts of the audience. Technical skill gets you into the game. Don't get me wrong, but there is look at all them hearts. Oh, look at all them beautiful hearts. But there is another skill, the skill we're here to talk about today, that is the game changer. So, Raul, we got a poll. We got a poll for the audience, and the question I have for everyone in the room is, what do you think? Was Thurston right? Was he right? Is it true that it's not the technical skills that matter? Howard Thurston couldn't even read. He couldn't even read. He knew other magicians would surpass him. What do you think? Was Thurston right? So, Raul, I don't know how whether or not I see the results here. We're going to give him obviously a few seconds to answer. Man, oh man, this is exactly what I suspected. Some people say yes. Most people say yes, 88%. Some people say no, 4%. But here's the key. Well, maybe back then it would work, but not anymore. That approach doesn't work anymore. Technology, it's coming in full force. It's too difficult to overcome. It's just not going to work anymore. So rather than go back to the 1840s, let's go back to more recent times, and let's look at what science has to say about this issue. And we're going to go right back to Harvard University and a study that they conducted to answer this question. They said, hey, what's like the real difference maker? What can we really do in order to make a difference in someone's life? So what they did was they gathered hundreds of people. They measured everything throughout their entire lives. And I mean, what a great experiment. We're going to measure everything about you for your entire life. And then we're going to have a bunch of information to look at and see what the difference maker was. And here's what they found. Some people in the study went on to become incredible success. John F. Kennedy was in this study. He became president of the United States. There are some, millionaires or the equivalent of billionaires, fantastic successes. There were also some miserable failures and some people who fell right in the middle. Perfect. That's exactly what we'd expect. A great data set. What was the difference between the successful people and the unsuccessful people? And they analyzed everything. They did this for 80 years. They spent $20 million trying to research this. Leave it to Harvard to come up with a scientific experiment to decide on the meaning of life, right? But here's what they found. In fact, I'll let George Valiant, the director of the Harvard Grant Study, tell you the results. He says, the conclusion of the study is that connection is the whole shooting match. The more areas in your life you can make connection, the better. Full stop. All right. So British friends, that means period, full stop, end of sentence. The more areas in your life, including business, including finances. In fact, the people who are really good at this skill earned an average of $171,000 per year. More than the people who are not good at this skill. Like over and above, beyond, like 6 figures extra. So the more areas in your life you can make connection, the better, full stop. This goes for you whether you are a solopreneur. This goes for you whether you manage a team. This goes for you whether you are a C-suite, senior leader, and you're in charge of the business operations. This is the major difference maker. Here's another great study. I love this one. 85% of your financial success is due to your personality and ability to communicate, negotiate, and lead. Shockingly, only 15% is due to technical knowledge. Now, I don't know what they were shocked about. 100% minus 85% is 15%. I mean, that's just plain math. No, here's why they were shocked. Here's why they were shocked, because actually, the truth is, this study was done by the Carnegie Institute of Technology, and I'm pretty sure that they would hope that technological skill would have a higher showing than just 15%. Here's another study by Sean Acor. He says there's a 0.71 correlation between social connection and happiness. That didn't seem like a big number until he went on to explain that's nearly twice as strong as the correlation between smoking and cancer. So if we believe that smoking causes cancer, we must believe twice to that degree that social connection causes happiness. And isn't that what we're here to do? Work effectively and work happy. This is the secret sauce, right? These are the non-obvious traits that I'm here to share with you. In fact, I'm going to share a lot with you, and I got to say, first and foremost, we can't forget, I love my audience. Aww. Seriously, I do. I love my audience. I love you guys, which is why I'm going to share quite a bit with you. And I would love for you to stick around till the end. Grab a mug, grab a muzzle for the kids, of course. Lock the door. Get that notepad ready. And again, of course, share with friends, share with your boss, your coworkers. And if you stick around to the end, I have a surprise for you. Remember, I said there's a way to give me a standing ovation. And I have a surprise for those of you who do. So I want to share with you the fact that this seems, I know, I get it. It seems obvious. It seems like an obvious trait. Tim, I get it. People matter. Okay, I get it. Never more have I spoken to the, preached to the choir than an audience that hired me quite a bit. Sometimes this happens in this industry. You get into an organization or an industry and you start getting your name passed around, and people don't see this message as obvious. Like, again, why are we doing this series? Why am I hired to speak at events if this message is obvious? And the answer, or the one that surprised me the most, is when this group hired me. They hired me several times, and they were a group of hospice providers, right? Palliative care professionals. And I don't know if you've ever walked the last mile of life with someone, but those people deserve a medal every single day. Let's show some support in the reactions. Anybody who provides hospice care, like, thank you for your service kind of situation, right? So these people, again, preaching to the choir, they know the value of human connection. In fact, they would say to me things like, Tim, this is not non-obvious. Like, we don't need science, right? Thank you, Harvard, and your $20 million and 80 years of research, but we don't need that. You know why? Because we sit with someone in their final moments. You know what they never say when they're on their deathbed? They never say, oh, please, if you would please just, it's fading. I'm feeling it. The end is coming. Could you go back to my office? Could you grab my college degree? It's hanging on the wall. I just want to hug it one last time. Like, nobody ever says that, right? Nobody ever says, wheel me into the garage so I can sit in my dream car for one last moment. It is not your accomplishments. It is not your possessions. It is not how many followers you have on social media. It isn't how much money you have in the bank. And those final moments, when hindsight is 20/20 with crystal clear clarity, the absolute experts on life, they've lived a full life. You know what they say? Bring me the connections. Like, bring me the people who matter. Bring me those relationships that I've made, and maybe even some of those relationships I've neglected. And this is here's the question. Here's the question I ask every audience. If that is what is going to matter then, shouldn't that be what matters now? If that is what is going to matter then, shouldn't that be what matters now? Why isn't it? Like, Why are we distracted? Why are we confused? Why does the chart for human empathy suddenly and mysteriously look like this? This is human empathy over the last 30 years. This is a graph, 14,000 people surveyed over years, self-evaluated. So people, this isn't like older people saying, oh, kids today, right? We had a good start in the 80s, right? It was like the I'm okay, you're okay movement, but then things started to drop. Right over here was the biggest drop. And I have a question for you. How many dots do you see on the screen? Type it in the chat, Raul. If you could open this up, let's get some participation. Even if you see your number, look around the screen, count the black dots. How many black dots do you see? I see people with 0 and 6 and 4 and 12. 12 seems to be running away with it. They are moving continuously. Someone's like, hey, we're on the West Coast here. It is only 9:24. What are you doing? I see a bunch. I can't count them. My eyes, help. I love this. 30-ish. Cool. They're everywhere. All right. Here's the truth about this optical illusion, this one optical illusion of the year. If you look at these intersections, I'm going to hover the mouse over the black dot in the corner. There's another one over here in this juncture. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then it's repeated for 3 more rows. That gives us an answer of 12. Those of you who said 12 are correct. Those of you who said 12, round of applause. Fantastic. But how many people had this experience? As your eyes are moving around the screen, the dots appear and disappear. It almost feels like it's animated or they're moving, someone said. How many of you had that experience? Give me the thumbs up in the chat, in the reactions, rather, if you had that experience where the dots were moving. Well, listen, here's why. And I want you to write this down. Here's why. Wherever you look, when you look directly at the dot, it's there. The other ones melt away, right? Here's the lesson. Here's the takeaway. Write this one down. In fact, I'm going to get nice and close because this is important. What you do not focus on disappears. What you do not focus on disappears. Now, I have some, I'm not going to lie, I have a little exercise. We're going to try something here. We're going to use technology to create connection. We're actually going to use a tool here. In fact, you don't need to open up any chat or anything. I'm just going to show you a URL that you can go to. In fact, Raul, if you could place in the chat the URL for this. The question is, why don't people focus on human connection? If we know it's what's going to be important, and we know that what we don't focus on disappears, the question is, why don't people focus on human connection? Or rather, what do they focus on instead of human connection? That's the question. It would be too many words otherwise. Go ahead and see if you can get into the Slido and see if you can start entering some of your answers. They should be populating on my screen here. I see some people typing, figuring out that technology. 2, 4, 6, 13. Here we go. It's coming. People are typing. Whew, it is working. What do people focus on instead of human connection? If we should be focused on human connection, we all know it. We all give lip service to it. Why aren't we? Well, what you don't focus on disappears. We must be focusing on something else. Again, if you see your answer, type it again. It will make it bigger. The more people type the same word, the bigger it gets. What are people focused on instead of human connection? Wow. It's pretty incredible. I see work as a big one. You know, that's what we're here to learn about, right? We're here to learn about working well and working happy. If Thurston knew it, if Harvard knows it, if we know it with our own gut and intuition and experience, look at all these other things: outcomes, profit, themselves, body language, phones, finances, success, survival, women. I like that. Technology, convenience. Oh my gosh, these are some great answers. And I really appreciate it. There's still 35 people typing and or 15 or whatever it is now. Yeah, that's interesting. In fact, I'm going to try to find a way to get this word cloud to you if you're interested. But maybe just grab a screenshot. Maybe this is something you could share, on social media as a reminder. All right, let's get back into it because, a lot of you, I get it. They're like, okay, how do we do this, Tim? How do we do this? Because I want you to think, what would change? There we are. What would change if every interaction you shifted that priority between money or work or yourself or survival or anything? You just shifted that priority. What would change if every interaction, every performance review, every sales conversation, every sit down chat with your children, what would change in your life and in your business if you switched and made the focus on human connection first? That's my message for you today. It's real simple. It isn't that you don't know that human connection is valuable. It's just a shift in priority and maybe even some shifts in tactics in how we do it. In fact, I want to give you some actionable ideas. I did promise I would leave you with things that you can take away and use. People still using the chat there. That's fantastic. But let's dive into it. Here's some actionable ideas right now. Number one. Hey, listen, if you want an organization that is focused on human connection, it starts with leadership. Psst, invite your boss, right? Make sure they're here. They need to hear this. If you were voluntold to come here to this presentation, if your boss was like, you better go learn about the future of work and I expect a full report, why don't you give him a little nudge and say, hey, this would be pretty cool for you to be here too, because listen, as an old Turkish saying, you don't tell them this, but there's an old Turkish saying that says, the fish starts stinking at the head. Right. So it all starts with leadership. If you're going to form a culture of human connection that puts connection first, it all starts with leadership. Actionable idea number two. I love this. We are all focused. Many of you put down things like money, success, and we want to check off the to-do items on our agendas. Well, that's fine. Absolutely. Achievement. Great. Write down your to-do list. Right next to it, why don't you write down a to-who list? Which connections can you pour into today? Do this for 3 weeks, 5 days a week. Put 3 people that you can deepen a connection with on that day and do that consistently and just watch and see what happens, right? I guarantee nothing bad is going to happen when you deepen connections. But can you imagine what might happen? 3 weeks, simple, takes you 10 minutes, right? So that's another actionable idea to deepen connection. And again, to shift the focus off of technology and AI and be an organization who prioritizes human connection. Here's another actionable idea. You can provide shared experiences. There's a bunch of data that just came out. There's a lot of evidence to show that shared experiences increases connection, which increases productivity, and some of the top performing teams are allowing for shared experiences. So for example, rather than going to, watch this webinar on replay and then just sharing it with the entire team, if everybody were in the room, even if it's remote, it is still a shared experience. So there are so many ways that organizations can provide shared experiences. And I want you to be thinking, even though we're remote, even though we're hybrid, are there things that we can do together as a team? In fact, here's one of my favorite tactics and techniques as well. I call it the help circle. And organizations have used this in a whole bunch of different ways. Any meeting that you have, right? And I promise later on, I'm going to share with you one of my secrets for cutting meeting times in half. Boy, we got so much to get to today, so little time. But yeah, basically the help circle goes like this. Beginning of a meeting, before you get into the content of the meeting, you say, hey, who needs help with stuff? Seriously, work related or not, who needs help with something in their lives? Put it out there and we'll see who can help with that, right? I don't know, was that some webinar Zoom work happy thing and this magic boy says to give it a try. So let's just give it a try. Who needs help with something? And then someone might say, hey, I'm moving and I could use a truck, or, hey, I'm working on this project for this client. I could use some help getting the graphics together for the proposal. And people start helping one another. Here's the magic behind this. People love to help one another. It's We're born with that desire. And yet people are terrified to ask for help. So create a safe place for people to ask for help, not directly to one person. Hey, can you help me? There's fear of rejection there. But hey, I need help with this. And then people can step forward and volunteer. People don't work for you. People work for each other, right? They show up for each other. Create that help circle, create that space where they can do that. And then finally, I'm going to share with you something that, organizations, again, bring me in to train on a deep level. I'm going to give you my connection habit today in this webinar. I'm going to make sure you get it. Again, we're pressed for time, but if you can make it a habit, and we're automatic, every interaction you go and you have this 3-part connection habit, I promise things will change incredibly for you. All right, let's go back to non-obvious trait number 2. Great teams cultivate conflict. Listen, human connection does not mean you agree on everything all the time. It means great teams cultivate the right kind of conflict. And you'll notice on this graph, there are 2 types of conflict. There's relationship conflict and there is task conflict. Task conflict is the right kind of conflict. Hey, we're going to share ideas. We're going to bounce ideas. We're going to shoot some things down. We are going to, try to hash this out. So that's task conflict. Relationship conflict is drama. It's gossip. It's bickering. It's infighting. Low performing groups have higher relationship conflict than task conflict. But check this out. Adam Grant found that high performing groups over time, and this is something I actually recently posted on LinkedIn, so forgive the quality here. Over time, relationship conflict goes down while task conflict actually increases. So if you can cultivate that kind of task conflict, and I'll share with you my favorite way of doing this. I call it the 6 magic hats meeting system. If there's an issue, a task that needs to be done, and you want to attack it and make sure that everybody's voice is heard and that there is the right kind of conflict that is not relationship conflict, here's how you approach any situation, any decision that needs to be made as a group. Here you go. You try on a different magic hat, right? You're going to do little timed sections where we're doing blue hat thinking right now, that is it. Or we're going to do red hat thinking, and that is it. And it focuses the mind and it attunes their thinking to the task at hand. Now, blue hat, very, very quickly, again, I don't have time to get into a full training here, but blue hat is thinking about thinking. What's the decision that needs to be made? How much time am I going to spend on this? Who needs to be at the meeting, etc. White hat thinking, what are the facts? What do we know? Red hat, ask everybody how they feel about that particular task. Get it out on the table. It's okay for people to share feelings. There is a big movement right now on creating psychological safety in the workplace. Encourage it, ask for it, and watch what happens. Allow people to be creative. There's different ways to do brainstorming exercises that we teach. Go yellow hat thinking. Okay, let's say that we do this, and let's go Pollyanna, rainbows, unicorns, lollipops, and puppy dogs. This is the greatest thing that ever happened. What made it so great? Why is it so great? What happens? Dream with me. And then the converse is the black hat thinking, let's let the pessimists have their voice too. And when they know that they're going to have their black hat thinking time, suddenly the rest of the week, they're not complaining and shooting down ideas because they know there's a place for that too. And their voice is valued. All right, non-obvious trait number 3. Non-obvious trait number 3, we're going to fly through this one. Great teams are not concerned so much with saying thank you. They're not concerned so much with saying thank you. There's a difference between saying thank you, and hear me on this, and making someone feel appreciated. There's a difference. So if you're a leader and you say, hey, great job, thanks. You said the magic word thank you, but did it land? I interviewed someone for my book, Magic Words, on how to say thank you in such a way where it lands and people feel it. And here are the 5 tips that he gave. Be timely, compliment their attributes, recognize their intent, recognize their costs, articulate their benefits, screenshot this screen right now. Anytime you need to show appreciation so that they feel it, make sure you're checking this list. Hey, thank you. You could, for listening, you're such a good listener, right? You wanted to help. You could have been anywhere else, but you chose to be with me. And you really helped, and here's how, right? Listen, be timely. You can never be too late, but earlier is better. This is how you make someone feel appreciated. Let's skip ahead to the next slide and let's go through. In fact, let's skip that because we are getting low on time. I'm going to share with you a story of the greatest email I ever received, my favorite email, and the factor and the way that if you do these things and do them well, then it creates a connection that is just different than most organizations. You see, most organizations have this like, let's say there's this org chart, right? We got all the people in our organization, and I'm going to show you the world's simplest org chart right here. 2 individuals. And what this line represents right here is their working relationship. All right. So we've got 2 people and there is a professional relationship. Okay. Professional relationship. A Clydesdale horse. It's very powerful. They can drag across the ground about 2,000 pounds. In the chat, Raul, open it up. In the chat, take a guess. If one Clydesdale horse can pull 2,000 pounds, how many pounds can 2 Clydesdale horses pull if they're properly hitched together? I'll take a peek in the chat. What did you guys come up with? If one can pull 2,000 pounds, that's 1 ton, how many pounds can 2 Clydesdale horses pull if they are properly hitched together? Oh my gosh, we see exponential math happening here. 11 tons, 25,000, 8,000, 2,000, 2,000, 11,000 I've heard. Oh my gosh, I've read your email, he says. It's 11. That is the truth of the matter. 2 Clydesdale horses, and here's the key, properly hitched, can pull 22,000 pounds. 22,000 pounds. I don't know why I said it like that. Like Arnold, or like every time I hear a heavy weight, it makes me talk like that. I don't know. 11 tons. That is 11-fold increase. Listen, even if you have an organization full of ponies, hitch them together properly with human connection and like watch these light up. See, that's the challenge here. That's the problem. We've got this energy source over here. This is our battery of human connection. It's over here. This is the secret sauce. And we are taught to keep professional separate from personal. My invitation to you, my challenge for you is to prioritize that personal connection, to create and maintain that personal connection, to tap into and create this circuit, like hitching 2 Clydesdales together properly, because it is not the boxes on the org chart that's the problem. The problem is the lines between them. The problem is they're not connected properly. So I'm going to share with you my favorite email that I've ever received. And it came to me when I was writing Flip, the 4 levels of influencing people. And I asked a simple question: who do you need to influence and what do you need to influence them to do? And I got a lot of answers. People saying, I want people to buy my stuff. I got people saying like, oh, I would love it if people would just do, what I tell them to do because I'm the boss. But here's my favorite email. And I gotta get through this real quick here. It looks like a diss. Dear Tim, I'm the chair of the school committee, and of the 37 surrounding towns and cities, 36 of them have completed major school renovations in the last few years, all except us. My town has not approved a school building renovation in over 50 years. They're stubborn, set in their ways, and the kids are the ones suffering. I'm speaking at a town meeting in front of 1,000 people, and I need to get renovations approved and funded. That's something no school committee chair has been able to do in 5 decades. What do I say to these people? Now, hear me on this. That what do I say to these people is a question I get a lot. I get people ask me, what do I say to these people? And yes, it's true. You do have to say the right words in the right time. In fact, I wrote a whole book on that. But even if you get that right, it's still only a piece of the puzzle. In fact, I call that piece of the puzzle speak. Right? You got to speak, in order to create a human connection, you got to speak human, right? You got to speak in such a way where it cuts through the noise. You've got to be clear. You've got to be concise. You've got to use story. You've got to be emotional. You've got to be compelling. That is a skill that if you want to move, listen, if you want to move mountains, you've got to be able to move people. And this is one of the skills of human connection that you've got to master. And Artie knew that. What do I say to these people? And that's the wrong question, or at least it implies that his focus is in the wrong area. Persuasion, influence, it's not a goal. It's a result. It's a result. Now, he also knew that in order to create and have them listen to the message he was saying, he had to have a second component of human connection. And I'll share that with you as well. The second component is you have to be a human being. Here's another writer downer moment if you're taking notes. People will never accept your message until they accept the messenger. So Artie needed to be a human, be authentic, be vulnerable, be passionate, be enthusiastic, be caring. And when he did that, it led him to the third piece of the puzzle, and it's probably my favorite. And it's revealed. Let's take a look at his email again. It's revealed in this, this portion of the email. They're stubborn. They're set in their ways. They're stubborn and they're set in their ways. What do I say to these people? The problem is not that they're stubborn or set in their ways. The problem was that he saw them as stubborn and set in their ways. He saw them as these people. He saw them as them versus us. And I got to say, there's one takeaway that you take from this entire presentation. One takeaway. If I had a magic wand, listen, this is what I call the circuit of connection. It's the circuit of connection. And you need all three parts. You do. A cord of three strands is not easily broken. But if I had a magic wand and I could make everybody on the planet really good at just one piece of the puzzle, it would be this final piece. And the final piece comes to us from a guy named John Gottman. Now, John Gottman looks like this. And he studies married couples, thousands of them over decades. And here's what he can do now. He's like a mathematician, and he was able to kind of crack the code, because this sounds like a real fun thing to do, right? Just go and have someone study you, for a week. He sends them to his love lab, and he video records everything, and he takes notes. Sounds like the dream for a relationship. No, I did say that. Go check the tape. It's being recorded. So that's what happened. And here's what he can do now. John Gottman can look at any married couple for 2 to 3 minutes. Just 2 to 3 minutes is all he needs. And then he can predict whether or not they will still be married 15 years from now. And he is over 90% accurate. Now, when he's trying to predict divorce, or even when he's trying to predict people who stay together, he's really looking for one piece of the puzzle. In fact, it's a facial expression. Paul Ekman, the master of facial expressions, calls it the #1 most dangerous human facial expression on planet Earth. If you're hooked up to medical equipment and you see a picture of this facial expression, literally the machines go crazy. Your blood pressure starts to fluctuate. Your immune system starts to break down and fail. You're physically damaged by a picture of a facial expression. Your brain prioritizes this. It is a threat to your brain. I'll show you a picture now of that facial expression, but I do need you to not look directly into his eyes. Otherwise, your body will start to break down. All right, here we go. This is the #1 most dangerous human facial expression of all time. Yep, there he is. That's not the eye roll. Sometimes the eye roll does co-present, but we're looking right here at the sneer of contempt. This is the face that says this: I'm here, you're here. I'm here, you're here. If we can fix this, us versus them nonsense, I mean, I believe if that's the most dangerous facial expression, then the most dangerous word in the English language is them. I think this is the root of our diversity, equity, and inclusion conversation. I think this is a big part of the reason why people do stupid shit on social media. I think this is like this. If we could fix this one piece, right? If we could get everybody to do this final piece of the puzzle here, which I'm going to write in green. It's so important. Just see the person as a human being. And this is my 3-part. This is the thing I promised. This is the circuit of connection. See, be, speak. If you just go into every interaction and go from focusing on interacting to connecting, then watch these boxes light up. Watch all of your relationships just explode, because this is the secret sauce. See, be, speak. Artie knew he had to say something to those people, and he knew that he had to be perceived as the right messenger. So he had to be a genuine human. He had to be connect-withable, right? And that's a suite of skills and strategies. And first, but any of that could happen, he had to see those people as human and not us versus them, or what am I going to say to these stubborn people? A couple years later, Artie sent me an email, and he sent me a video of his presentation. And I was shocked, not going to lie. Out of the 981 people who are present in the meeting, and right now we got 876 here, so it's, comparable. When they were asked if they approved, stand up if you approve the school funding, 961 out of the 981 stood in unison. My jaw dropped. I was so happy for him. I was like, yes, he did it. The circuit of connection, one guy, one meeting, and there we go. I was really, really excited, but then I got another email, and he said, hey, we had to do a follow-up meeting, and they had to do like an actual vote, and they didn't approve the school renovation, the funding for the school renovations. Instead, what they did was they gave me $96.4 million to build a brand new school. And this right here is the school being built. This is what I call the school that the circuit of connection built. And gosh, like I said, what would change if every interaction that you go into, you prioritize the power and the magic of human connection? So I've given you 3. Again, I know we talked about 7. That's really sort of more of my full day, training. But listen, imagine your next meeting. Imagine it going as incredible as Artie's meeting. And I did promise maybe you want to stand as well and give that standing ovation. Here's how you do that. It looks like this. Go ahead and head over to this link. Raul, you can pop it. Thank you so much. This is how, you can maybe say thank you to me. This is a big help for me. Obviously, I'm really passionate about human connection. I'm passionate about how people can work together despite being hybrid environments. And if we can spread this message far and wide, helping people to see the human, helping people to be more human in their interactions, helping people to speak more clearly and drown out some of the noise, because, this world is drowning in information, but we're starved for knowledge. We're starved for wisdom. We're starved for connection. So this would be a great way to help you, help me spread that message. Think of people that who might need to hear this as well. So go ahead. It's real simple to fill that out. You can either use your phone, just open up your phone's camera, point it right at that little QR code on your screen, and click on that link. And I'll show you what it looks like when you do that, because there's one more important step. You got to enter that code, and that code right there, of course, today is Zoom. Only with 2 O's. There you go. And pop your email address, and I'll be able to get you some really cool stuff that I just didn't have time to get to today. All right. Now, Raul, do we have time for maybe a question or 2? And if so, what do we got?
Yeah, I know we're way over time, going over the time that we schedule here, but I'll shoot one out here. Someone asked here, how does one define connection in this online/shallow connection world?
Yeah, so that's something we chatted a little bit about briefly earlier on. When it comes to creating connection, it really just comes down to your focus. And technology can be seen as a barrier, or it can be seen as a tool. And like any tool, a hammer, right? It can be used to build a house, or it can be used as a weapon, right? Or it can be used to destroy as well. So the tool itself isn't something that, creates human connection or doesn't. It's always and forever will be the people and the choices and the focus that we make. Years ago, Socrates was like, books? what are these newfangled technological and books? No, that's going to ruin the youth. We should, even books were seen as a revolutionary technology that was going to ruin people. It's never the technology. It is the focus and choice that you use. Great question.
All right, one more question for the sake of time. The person I work with is untrustworthy and lazy. I've tried working with this person for 3 years, but it's exhausting, so I just moved forward alone. What advice would you give?
So there are some times when we are encountered forced work connections, forced work environments, and there are times when those aren't always natural, and they don't often, hit up. People don't just hit it off instantly. So I want you to reframe what your goal of connection is. It isn't about loving and liking and getting along super well with this person. It's simply about understanding. So rather than trying to fix the other person or change or alter the other person, I like the approach that you took. Well, I'm just going to move forward. I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And some of the things that we can do is certainly this portion right here. See them as a human, understand why some of these behaviors are happening, and you'll be amazed. Once you dive deep into someone's brain, it's not as simple as things are on the surface. So I'd recommend empathy, compassion, patience, and one of the ways that patience can happen is just through understanding. And I think when we understand people, and here's another quick tip: expect the best out of them. Like starting tomorrow, just start expecting. And when you do that, it's amazing how people respond. There is a guy who did a lot of science behind that. He calls it the Pygmalion effect. But again, interest of time, start expecting the best from people and you'd be amazed. Suddenly it makes you instantly and infinitely better at your job. And it makes you happier. And that's the whole point of why, and I think this is a great way to close, because it makes you better at your job, but it also makes you happier. And that's what we're talking about: work and happy coming together. And there you have it. Focus on you and what you can do.
Awesome. Great content, Tim. I do want to thank our audience for joining here today. Lots of great comments, lots of reactions, as you can see, Tim, on the screen here. Just a quick reminder, we are recording the webinar, so be on the lookout for a follow-up email with the link to the recording. It's also going to include all the links that I put in the chat there. So, being able to connect with Tim on LinkedIn, any info on his books, speaking engagements, things like that. And we'll also provide some of that info in that follow-up email as well. But do want to thank everyone for joining. Tim, thanks again for being our guest speaker for today. Folks, like I said, be on the lookout for that follow-up email. Thank you for joining. Stay safe. And of course, stay connected. But thanks again. Bye, everyone.